Dave, thanks for joining me around the campfire. You warm enough? Is everything fine?
Beautiful, mate. It's fantastic out here.
Away.
Yeah,
lovely.
no
That's,
problems at all.
That's terrific. I've known you for a fair while.
Let's be honest, it's been a long while.
It has. But, you know, you've been a cinematographer for about 30 years,
Yep.
you know, and experience in that field. But prior to that, you were a physics teacher. How the heck did that progression work?
Look, basically, because I taught physics and maths, and I remember I walked into a year 8 class one day, start of the year, and I looked at the material I had to teach for that year. I thought, this is exactly what I did last year. And I thought, if I do this for 40 more years and retire as a school teacher still, I would have taught that 40 times, and I thought, I can't do that. I just can't.
So you found a camera and the rest is history?
Well, no, I got into music after that.
Music?
Yeah, so I was a retailer for 7 years. I sold musical instruments, guitars.
Okay.
And
do you play?
Yeah, played in bands and all that sort of stuff as well. So, you know, it was just one of those things. I thought, I've got to do something that's got to, you know, a short attention span, call it what you like, I don't know. But I just thought, I can't do this teaching thing. I enjoyed teaching. I actually really like teaching. And I still teach now, strangely enough, drone stuff. But
well, we'll get on to drones a bit later, but has that physics, that knowledge of all of that, has that helped you with any calculations you have to make, you know, for
look,
flight?
it's not so much the calculations, but, you know, in studying physics, I learned about optics. Now, optics is lenses. And lenses is what this whole game's about. And just, I mean, as an example, just yesterday, the day before, I can't remember, I did a job where it was a drone job and they wanted a look-down shot straight from above. And I said, look, you can have about 75-degree angle because legally I can't get in to do a straight-down shot because I'm too close to the people. And I can actually give you a slightly tighter angle if I shoot from higher. Now it's the knowing the three-dimensionality of the geometry of that says, yeah, I know what I can do here, and I know I can be legal, so yes, I think whatever you do in life, it's important. No, it's useful, I should say, that you can take that bit of knowledge that you've got, be it physics or music or whatever it is, and you could incorporate it into the next thing. So. With drones, for instance, people ask me, are there jobs in drones? And I say, there are jobs if you can combine it with what you already know. So if you're a surveyor and you're a drone pilot, you're a drone flying surveyor. That's a good thing. By itself, hard to make a living as a drone pilot just by itself. But with me, it's cinematography plus. So that's what makes me able to sort of sustain an income and get it working.
So as I said, you know, 30 years as cinematographer, then picture hire. You hire equipment out, and you know, one of the premium operators here in South Australia for
the
that
premium.
stuff. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Yeah. and now with the drone stuff, above Oz, which is your drone company.
Yeah.
Mate, so cinematographer, one of the perks of being a cinematographer is you get to travel a lot, but you've done a fair bit, not only as a cinematographer, but as a drone pilot, particularly for the ABC program, Backroads.
Yeah. I mean, that was fantastic. That started with when the program first went to air. They were looking for aerial capability, and this is right back. This is 4 years ago, roughly. And they were looking for that aerial content to, I suppose, sort of paint the picture of what this town was all about. You know, because the show, for people who haven't seen it, it's basically about rural towns and rural lifestyle.
Pretty small in some cases as well.
Sometimes very small, sometimes a bit bigger. Yeah. Nothing really big though. It's not looking for, you know, major regional centres. It's back roads. You know. So and what they're looking for that. And initially they started off thinking, well, we'll get some drone people in. First guy they got didn't work out too well. He was enormously expensive. Had to have a two-man crew and went on and on. So the guy's footage was fine, but he was just too expensive for the budget. You know, ABC budget's not big. And then the next one they decided, well, we'll use a helicopter for this one, and that was even more expensive. And you know, The pilot wasn't particularly skilled in terms of putting the helicopter where you could get the good shots. I mean, you know, just because you can fly a helicopter doesn't mean you're a good filming helicopter pilot.
Well, without a rig on the bottom, basically the helicopter pilot frames the direction. He puts it, and us as camera people, we finesse that, I guess, when we're hanging out of a door or whatever.
Precisely. So that didn't work too well. And the third episode, they decided no more aerials. We're going to go without aerials.
Right.
I drove into a town. And the first thing they see is a drone up just next, as they're driving into town. I think, oh, I wonder who that is. It was the local real estate agent.
Oh, okay.
And he was just getting a house. Yeah. So they said, oh, can you do some stuff for us? Of course, he did, but it wasn't awesome footage. It was serviceable. And then they thought, no, this is really going badly. The whole thing, they were ready to ditch the whole thing and just give up. And they had one more story to do over in Ceduna in South Australia. And they thought, oh, we've got this, the old OTC dish, the big telecommunications dish. Yeah. We want to film it, and we've got to get a shot of it in its context, you know. It's just, we've got to do it. So I thought, okay, last time, we're going to just, one more time, we're going to try and see if we can get it. So by various contacts, they got in touch with me. And basically, I did that job for them, and then I did about 40 episodes in a row straight after that. So that was how I got the job, and that took me all around Australia. It was fabulous. Yeah.
And also some little islands, for instance, Tiwi Islands, Thursday Island.
Yeah.
How'd you go over there?
The show just goes anywhere in Australia. So we in each series there's at least one story from each state. So there's all the states are covered. And they just said Tiwi Islands, we're going there, and Thursday Island, neither of which I'd been to. They just came up on the roster of shows, and away you go. So
any issues while in actually those?
I shouldn't have pre-briefed you about issues, should I?
I've got notes here. Start whistling.
Whistling, okay, yeah. Look, it was not an issue, but it was just an interesting little thing that happened. Up on the Tiwi Islands, there was a lot of birds in that area, and the whistling kite is it's everywhere up there. It's a sort of medium to large predator type bird, and one of the things you become very aware of very quickly with flying drones is birds, and the potential for contact. Because frankly, if it's contact, it usually ends with both the drone and the bird dying. It's not a good thing for a bird to get involved in propellers. So you're aware of it. But these whistling kites were everywhere, and they're an interested bird. They sort of like to see what's going on. Yeah. And anyway, I was doing it was a tracking shot of our car. Our presenter for the show was sort of driving the car along one of the roads, and I'm tracking along, just getting a shot, pretty standard stuff. I thought, oh, what's that in the corner of the frame? And sort of up in the top left-hand corner, there's this whistling kite, and he's just flying along, flap, 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 only about, I don't know, I'm guessing probably 3 metres away from the drone.
Right.
And he's just checking me out. And he's just sitting there in the corner of my frame looking at me, sort of, what are you doing down here? What's going on here?
That's amazing, because a drone makes a bit of noise. You can hear it from the ground, and by that distance away. I mean, let's get a whistling kite noise. It's that bzzz of a drone surely would have scared him off, but he didn't bother.
No, he had been around. I'd seen him. I presume it was the same guy.
Yeah, they all look the same.
They do look a little bit similar, to be fair. No offence to whistling kites, but often birds will take an interest. Like wedge-tailed eagles, for instance, I've had on several occasions approach the drone very closely, circle it, have a good hard look at it, and think, no, I can't eat it, can't make love to it, and it's not going to attack me. So I'm out of here.
Okay, so we've established, I reckon, that you're a professional. So what's the difference between a professional, other than the framing of the shots, etc., and taking it into your job, and the average man or lady, kid, travelling Australia with the drone that they've picked up, you know, for a couple $100 online. Obviously, the size is important there. In fact, I looked online this morning, a bit of preparation. I saw a drone. It was a clone of a drone for $84. And I just imagine the size of it and the fact that it probably will break after the first attempt and all of that. So let's just go back to a professional training. What qualifications are required?
To get to the stage where you are flying commercially is a relatively simple step. To get to the stage where you're what would be considered by the industry to be a professional is quite a big step beyond that. So if I take it those two steps at a time, if you want to fly commercially and you've got a small drone that's under 2 kilograms takeoff weight, if it's under 2 kilograms takeoff weight, and you want to fly for money, so you want to do real estate shots or, you know, blogs or video logs, whatever.
Caravans.
Whatever, you know. All you have to do is register with CASA, the Civil Aviation Safety Authority. So you register with them. There's a quiz that's going to be introduced, I think it's this month, is going to be introduced. There's a little quiz that you've got to watch, a little video, and then answer some questions afterwards online.
This is a one-off thing?
One-off thing. So you get on there, you register yourself, you get given a file number. It's called an aviation reference number, and that's you, Andrew Kennedy, that's your file number for the rest of your life. If you choose to fly jumbo jets later on, that number follows you for the rest of your life. So you get a number, you get registered, you do the quiz, you tell them where you want to fly, so it might be, you know, Queensland or Darwin or whatever, and you wait for, I think it's 3 days while they do some background checks, make sure you're not a undesirable person, and then you're in business. That's it. I think there's, and you have to register your aircraft, and that's coming in also this month, and I think that's about, I think it's about $30 or $50 or something like that per year.
Does that apply for the average Fred just going out to get his holiday snaps?
No. So that's commercial flying, right? If you're not flying for money, that doesn't apply. So if that's what they call recreational flying, and essentially recreational flying, they define commercial flying as everything else but recreational flying. So it might be you might not earning money, but it might be improving your job chances. All of a sudden, that's commercial, right? So recreational is purely recreational. You're going out, have fun. You're not intending to make money out of at any stage. So for that, if you buy a drone, you get with the drone usually these days, there's a little insert that I think the DJI in particular are putting in there, DJI being by far the biggest manufacturer. And it basically goes through the set of rules. They're called the standard operating conditions. That is, you're 30 metres from people and 400-foot maximum height, not allowed to fly at night, not allowed to fly over populous areas, those sorts of rules. There's a set of rules. As long as you follow that set of rules, just go for it, have fun, enjoy life.
Which is perfect.
Yeah, which is perfect. But the set of rules are quite limiting. You've got to make sure that you really understand the rules, because they do close down a lot of space.
Okay, so we were travelling in, and a lot of drones are controlled by GPS as well.
Yes.
So we were travelling into Longreach. We were filming up there, and they wanted to get a shot as I travelled into Longreach, towing a vehicle for a particular job when we were going over the Big Red Bash once from Brisbane, and we set the drone up, and the drone just wouldn't take off, purely because there's a huge airport at Longreach, so it wouldn't take off. So we went back, the required distance, and got a shot, and then the cameraman got a shot of the city and the town and the airport in the background. That was fine. But things like national parks, we touched on this when I called you yesterday. National parks, flying over populated area, how low you can go, etc. Is that covered in that sort of thing? Yeah,
it's all part of it, and that's why I say the set of rules, it looks deceptively simple. It's like little 8 bullet points or something, whatever it is these days, and you think, oh, that's not too hard. But once you actually start reading it, there's a whole lot of things there. You think, oh, that's going to make that difficult, and that's going to make that difficult. And, you know, so you've got to get your head around what it really means. And things like national parks, as an example, they actually sit outside of that standard operating conditions. So the standard operating conditions tell you what CASA will allow. National parks are a bit of an oddity in as much as they've got separate regulation that is purely related to flying in national parks and working in national parks. And basically the rule is all national parks, Australia-wide, no drones. The only time you'll see drones legally in a national park is if they've got permission from the national park, and the permission is usually only given for scientific research, things like that, or media organisations, tourism, those sorts of things. So if I'm working in national parks, somebody in the production company that I'm working for will have contacted them. I think the starting fee is about $700 to apply, and I think we normally have to have a park ranger with us the whole time that we're filming and pay their wage for that day or for that half day.
That's sort of standard, even if you're not flying, even if you're on the ground as well.
Yeah.
You have to have somebody accompanying.
Yeah, so, you know, it will very quickly end up being over $1,000 just to get into the park and just do a quick bit of filming. Right. So, and that's fair enough.
So, illegally, what happens if Fred takes his drone up, takes a few shots, comes down, he can get caught by the ranger and he's up for a fine?
Yeah. Starting fine, I think, is about $990 these days, first offence. Fines go up to about $10,000.
Wow.
And 6 months imprisonment.
Wow.
The other thing that's worth taking into account is that if you've got a recorded conviction for that, and then you go in and say, "Oh, CASA, I want to register," they'll just say, "No, we don't want you. Go away," and that will be on your record with CASA for life. So the fine itself is not insubstantial in its own right, but it's also shutting down the whole of drone flying for you for the rest of your life if you get caught. So you might get away with a slap on the wrist the first time, but, you know, ignorance is bliss, you know, those sorts of excuses. But realistically, if you get caught, and most of the getting caught is not by the rangers so much, it's because people post it online.
I'm just going to say, technology is a wonderful giveaway, isn't it?
Absolutely, and you know, you might think, oh, they'll never see it, but people dob people in. You know,
Sure.
If your brother-in-law hates your guts, and he says, "Oh, I'm going to nail him."
I've met my brother-in-law.
Well, I wasn't being personal, you know. I was talking about my brother-in-law, but you know, like you know, if somebody dobs you in, you're gone. So
Technology is also a wonderful thing where you can get apps that help you. You can literally go, "Where can I fly?"
Yeah.
And CASA put one out. What's it called? Can I fly there?
Can I fly there? Yeah. Now that's a little bit of there's a bit of a transition going on there at the moment. The app that CASA, as you quite rightly said, put out, they've decided they're not going to put that out anymore. And actually that has, I think, been fully decommissioned now, that app.
Oh, okay.
So that's history. What CASA are doing now is they're adopting the same model as Bureau of Meteorology do. What they do is they put out a whole batch of data, and then app makers can independently make their own apps, but they have to use the data. So you can have an app that's targeted at drone flyers, for instance, or you can have from Bureau of Meteorology. They can put out apps for farmers, or they can put out ones for car races or whatever, that sort of give them the information they want. But the data all comes from Bureau of Meteorology. So what's happening now is CASA have decided they're going to put out this data set, and then if you are an app maker, you can make an app that displays that data for people. So the first one was just released literally only about a month or so ago in this new regime, but there will be others following shortly on. The first one was just a test. I think it was run by Google. I think they won the contract to do the test app. But then beyond that, there will be many apps coming out, and I would say, 6 months down the track, we're probably talking about half a dozen apps that are going to have that sort of information, but it will be targeted. So if you're a recreational flyer, you'll be looking for one that's just got basic information, yes, no answers. For me, I'm sort of looking at it in a more in-depth scenario, because as one of the things as when you're flying as a licensed pilot is you can apply to CASA to break the rules, right? So I can go in next to aerodromes, I can go above 400 feet, I can go do a lot of things, I can fly at night, I can do all these things that the recreational flyer can't do if I get permission to do so from CASA. So I'm looking at airspace in a much more detailed sense than the recreational pilot would want. So the recreational pilot will want a nice simple app. You pull up on the side of the road, you think, I wonder if I can fly here. Boom, hit the thing, it says no, okay, you don't. You hit it, it says yes, up you go. That's all you want to know. So those sort of apps will be great, because they'll be more targeted. At the moment, the Can I Fly There one, which was targeted at recreational pilots, was really quite confusing for guys like me and quite useless for me, because the information it gave wasn't relevant to my situation. So.
Well, that's why I still don't own a drone. Hey, maybe I will when I'm taking off. It'll be purely as for my own use, or maybe posting, so where I am and what I'm doing. But that's why I hire people like yourself to do all of that, pre-checks, all the homework, find out where you can fly. Now, you're also a registered trainer as well.
Yeah.
So that's why you're so knowledgeable in this area.
Yeah, I mean, that came about because I originally did my training with a group from New South Wales who came to Adelaide and did training sessions and left again. I thought, that's a bit dodgy. I reckon I could run a better organisation. That's just a local organisation.
Just a bit of physics?
Yeah, and I had a background in teaching. I know my physics. I know my cinematography. I thought I'd be a complete rubbish flyer, but it turns out drones are really easy to fly. So, that was fine. So I set up the first training organisation registered by CASA in South Australia. We've been doing that roughly about 3.5 years, I think, now. So, and it's a major part of my life now is keeping up to date with regulations and the actual training courses themselves.
Got any handy hints for anyone wanting to take off?
Handy hints? Look, there's a few. One of the things that I was in a retail store a little while ago, guys selling drones, and I heard this earnest young salesman, and he's saying, now, when you take the drone home, only fly it, like 2 or 3 meters above the ground, because you don't want to crash. And I thought, that is the worst advice I've ever heard. He's 2 or 3 meters away from instant death. I mean, hitting the ground is bad news for drones. Little racing drones, they do it all the time, but they're built indestructibly. Yeah. For the average recreational drone, though, you want to be away from stuff. So the tip is go up to 200 feet, well above the treetops. Learn to fly up there. Once you've got it organised and you know what you're doing, then start coming down and fly near the ground, fly near trees, all those things. Because the good thing about being up at 200 feet is you can't hit anything. There's nothing up there. So stay away from stuff. That's one of the big ones.
Okay. I like to just throw some words in at the end of a conversation. And I guess carrying on from what you just said, let's start with the word insurance.
Yeah, insurance is something you do have to be careful with, because if you fly a drone and you haven't organised insurance and you hit somebody, you will have no insurance. There is no insurance that automatically covers you. So your home policy won't cover you. Even if you're in business, your public liability policy won't cover you. There is no standard sort of coverage for aviation, because as soon as it's only a little drone, but it's still considered aviation. So
sorry, that would apply to not only the commercial but the recreational flyer as well.
Yeah. So there are a lot of people flying out there who are not insured but don't realise it. Now, there is, I believe, some movement within the insurance industry to sort of cover those situations, but My understanding is that even recreational people may be in a situation where they have no liability insurance. So if they hit somebody and hurt them, worst case, blind them, propellers going in your eyes, instant blindness, that they could have serious consequences. So, yeah. Problem area, check your insurance companies, just see what they say. I mean, we have a dedicated public liability policy here that covers us. It's about $800 a year, I think. And that covers us for that sort of scenario.
Off subject, but maybe not, underpants.
Yeah. Now this is you read my briefing notes where it said wear clean underpants.
That's right.
Now it's not for the reason all of your listeners are thinking. It's not that reason. A slightly embarrassing situation happened. Strange enough, you remember I told you about the one about in Ceduna, the job we did in Ceduna. That was the first and last time on that very job, my very first episode of Backroads, where I completely lost a machine. And just to tell you what was happening...
Did you have a spare?
No, no spare.
Okay.
Since that day, I always travel with 2 drones.
Yeah.
But no, that time, no spare. And so we'd been filming all day. And keep in mind that this was a new client. I didn't know the people I was working with. And when you're working for broadcast, they expect broadcast quality results. So, you have to be on your toes. So a little bit of pressure, a little bit of stress. I'd been up since 4 a.m. To get the flight over there. I'd been working all day, very continuously. It was a very windy day, so that puts a lot of pressure. Some of the shots were flying over. There was a junkyard, I think was the first shot we did, which we had to fly over. They wanted shots about a metre above the junk in strong winds. So a very difficult day. So by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I am pretty much stuffed.
I get that.
And we'd finished this shot out over the harbour there at Ceduna, and the producer said, "Okay, we're done here. Let's move on to the next location." And my drone's about 300 or 400 metres out to sea at this stage, and at 400 feet. So I thought, okay, I'll just bring it back. So I'm flying back, and it's it's a relatively long flight, and I'm sort of watching it, but not really doing much, just flying. And but I'm listening to the conversation with the rest of the crew saying, right, the next location is we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and da-da-da. All this conversation going on. I'm tired, I'm distracted.
Yeah.
And I'm just watching the aircraft come towards me, and we're standing on, if you know Ceduna, it's got these little cliffs about, 3 or 4 metres high. It goes down to a little beach and then this big shallow bay. And I'm just coming in, and we're standing on the cliffs there by the Norfolk Island pines. And in comes the drone, and then I sort of thought, there's something weird about my drone. I'm like, what's going on here? And it had this sort of it looked like a border around it of dots. I'm thinking, huh?
You thought your eyes were just so tired.
And it took me a while to realise that was a splash. And the drone was currently in the process of sinking into the ocean. Oh, no. And this was splashed water. That's what that stuff was.
Right.
And I didn't move a muscle. Nothing happened. I just flew straight into it, watching the whole time. Didn't see the ocean coming, effectively.
Right.
And so it's sinking. And I said a word that my mother would have disapproved of. Mm-hmm. I said it quite a few times, and I said it quite loudly, and I then had to apologise to the producer, who was a female, and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry,
Probably
didn't
heard
mean
that
that
before anyway."
Oh, I'm sure she had, but
Yeah, you did.
but ABC, they're like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm just standing there in shock, going, "Oh dear, oh gosh, oh golly."
Yeah.
How did I do that? But the cameraman who was working with me, he was actually operating a camera for me while I was flying on that particular job, because my drone, you can work as a 2-man crew.
Yes.
So he has realised that all of the recording that we've been doing all day is on that little micro SD card that is in the process of sinking into the ocean as we speak.
Right.
So the whole day's work is in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
And he's thinking, I want that footage. So he has dropped his pants, taken his shoes and socks off, taken his shirt off, jumped off, walked down the cliff. He's getting into the water, and I'm thinking, he's going in the water.
Yeah.
But I'm the one who crashed it. Perhaps I have to help him. So off with my pants, off with my shirt, female producer, female presenter, Heather Hewitt, if you've seen the show, she's going, oh, really?
Bragger.
The female presenter, female producer, the sounder, who was a bloke, he could take it, he could cope. Sure. And there's us two old blokes, the cameraman and myself. I was about 60 at that stage. The other cameraman, a bit younger than me, but no more gorgeous. And we are wandering around on the beach in our jocks and then walking out of the ocean looking for this blooming drone.
Did you get it?
My biggest fear was not that I wouldn't find it. My biggest fear was that somebody would take a photograph of us and it would be in the paper, the Seduna paper the next day. Two ABC idiots looking for a drone. The end of the story was, yes, we did find it because it was very shallow water. Found it, pulled it out, and took the card out of it. The machine was, by that stage, there's water through all the electronics, so it's never going to fly again. But the card, a little micro SD card, pulled that out, washed it off in clean water, fresh water, dried it out, and put it into the computer. And we're going, oh, please let this be okay. And every clip was there.
All right, mate. To finish off, last thing I want to know: do you know any dad jokes?
Dad jokes?
Yeah. Ooh. For instance, one that I can just remind you of, it was the end of your email yesterday. You said to me, you'd better shut me up, I can drone on all day.
Oh, well, now you've used it. I mean, I can't reuse it, can I?
On that note, Day Cooks, thank you so much for joining us on Campfire Conversation.
Thank you, Andrew. Good on you, mate.